So tonight I am excited because I love pastels. And I'm going to be sharing with you painting, how you can paint with pastels. And an integral part I feel of working with pastels is also learning how to work with charcoal because often before you get into your painting, you use charcoal to do your sketches. Now, some people use graphite, and there's all different kinds of beautiful graphite. As a matter of fact, and graphite, normally you would think of graphite as a pencil, right? So you could use your mechanical pencils or what other kind? Oh, these are my favorite pencils from Staedtler right here. So that is graphite that's in a pencil like this. Where's my other big fat graphite? I don't know. Let's see. I took a lot of things with me away from the house from the hurricanes. Oh, here it is. So that is a big, massive stick of graphite. And so a lot of people will do their initial sketches with graphite. I, however, like to do my initial sketches for pastel with charcoal. And so this is charcoal right here. It says willow charcoal, and it comes in a stiff container. So there's a nice small piece of charcoal. So I have little bitty pieces of charcoal like this, all the way up to big fat pieces of charcoal like this. It just depends on how big the artwork is that I'm working on. Actually, the nice thing about getting these sets like this, I like to look for the ones that have different sizes on them. So you'll, besides those little skinny ones, you can see here, there's also a big one. So this is actually burnt vine. This one says it's willow charcoal, so it's literally burnt willow branches that they turn into charcoal. But that they do control the way that they burn it. They've like put it inside a, I'm not sure if it's a clay or a metal container. And so there's a certain way that you heat it that it doesn't just turn into ash, that it actually will turn into charcoal. Because some people, some artists, if you live up in the mountains and you have those kind of trees around, you can go ahead and make your own charcoal. And now there's something called white charcoal, and you're going to say, Tristina, how the heck can you get white charcoal? Okay, I understand. Um, because charcoal is burnt stuff, right? And isn't burnt stuff black? Yes. But I'm going to be showing you when we look at paper that we use for this kind of work that often you're working on a toned or a colored paper. And so if you're working on a colored paper, it can be helpful to have what is dubbed white charcoal, even though it's not actually charcoal because it's not burned, right? But this is, notice it says charcoal white or there you go, charcoal white from Generals. Ah, there's some bugs in my house from the whole hurricane thing. So if you see me swatting, that's what it is. It's like there are these little bugs in here that are bothering me. Sorry about that. But so this is actually a white chalky pencil. And so it's going to work beautifully together. Hey, Craft Owl, welcome in. It's going to work beautifully together with your charcoals. Like, for instance, here's a or in this case, it's a black pastel, but you see how I'm getting the black pastel on there. So sometimes it's called white charcoal. Sometimes you might see it in a pastel set called white pastel. And then other times you can see it like this. See how it says compressed charcoal white. Like I said, charcoal's made from burning stuff. So you don't get this from burning stuff, but it's still called compressed charcoal, and I'll be using that together with either my black pastel or my black charcoal. And a lot of times people like to use the blocks like this or the pencils like this when they're doing their initial sketches on toned paper. So the black works on toned paper as well as the white works on toned paper. And we're going to play with some toned paper tonight because I found some new toned paper and I'm excited to put it through its paces. Okay, let me show you who the artist, the very famous artist from the mid to late 1800s, who inspired me for tonight's workshop. And that is Edgar Degas. So here is a book about Edgar Degas. That was how he signed his name. And the book came from my local art guild in this area, the Manatee Art Center. And once a year, they have a big sale and they sell books that are like if they have more than one of the book in their library, they will offset and sell those additional books. So I got this beautiful hardbound book for, I don't know, a dollar, $2, something like that. So I highly recommend that y'all check out your local art centers and ask them when they have their annual sales and do they have book sales, because you can pick up incredible inspiration in books like this about specific artists or about museums that are very inexpensive. Like if I were just to go buy this book by itself, I think it was printed in France and or either France or Italy. Yeah, Bonfini Press. So I think it was printed in Italy. So it might not even be readily available in the United States. But hey, it was available in the art center. So woohoo, lucky me. And what I wanted to do was share with you a little bit about Edgar Degas. Let's take a look at what he looked like. He did a lot of self portraits in the beginning of his career. And so there is his self portrait, 1855, when he was 20 years old. I think they said he started it in 1854, finished it in 1855, something like that. And so that's what that young man looked like. He was from a wealthy family, and they expected him to go into banking. You're going to be a good banker, because the family was in banking in France. They'd originally come from Italy. They moved to France, and the father was in banking, but he didn't want to have anything to do with that. He did not, like a lot of artists, he could not pay attention in school, and the courses that he loved the most were his art courses. And he was the eldest son, so again, he was expected to go into banking, right? Because the family was in banking, and he's like, I'm not going to make it as a lawyer. So they allowed him to become an artist. And let's see, he stated that um, there was something here. So he was born in Paris in 1834, and then, but he had an Italian grandma, so he had that. He liked the classical paintings um, that were more Italian. And let's see, I saved some sections here. Now, he's most known for his, and what he finally, like, he was doing lots of portraiture because that's what a professional artist did back in the day, is he would do oil painting and drawings of famous people who commissioned him to do that. In the very beginning, like a lot of us, he did a lot of drawings of family members. So this is Marguerite Degas, and that was done in pencil. So as I mentioned, graphite, it was done in graphite, and that's in the Louvre in Paris, the Louvre Museum. But after he uh, got more comfortable with his working with oil paints and his drawing skills, actually as he was going to various schools to learn painting, there was a famous artist of the time named Ingres, Ingres, and he got to meet him one time. And Ingres had told him, and this was a piece of advice that Degas remembered his whole life. Ingres had said, draw lines, plenty of lines, whether from memory or according to nature. So that's great advice for any of us who want to be artists and want to render figures or do abstract, whatever. It's a lot of it is about line quality, and so spend a lot of time on lines. But once he went later on in his career, he realized that his favorite things were the theater. He loved the theater, so he did a lot of paintings of the theater. Here is a painting that he did in oil paint of a scene from a play. And so that became a lot of his subject matter. Something else that I wasn't aware of was that he also loved to do horse races. So here are the jockeys and some horses from this book, and those are oil paints and pastels. And he got really adept at working quickly with the dry media of pastels. And some of his most famous and recognizable pieces have to do with uh, the drawings that he did of ballerinas. So here is a sketch that he did. So these would be called studies. And then here is a painting in pastel that he did of several of the ladies. And um, there's just so much out there because he was very prolific. He had a long career in art. And the card that I showed you earlier that will be the giveaway for this show, which is my version of one of his paintings. Here is the painting that he did there. So those are ballerinas in blue. And I took the one ballerina because I'm not as adept yet at doing multiples together. So I just isolated one ballerina and did that in pastel. Now I have another picture that I did here also, pastel, and it's this ballerina with a big floofy orange skirt. And this is his work that I fashioned it after. So here he has two ballerinas, and I just isolated this one ballerina here and made up the other stuff in the background to go eliminate this ballerina right here. So there you go. That's what I turned it into. Now that one that I just showed you was the ballerinas in pastel, but then here's another one of his ballerinas, but that's in oil paint. So I find that a lot of artists who are oil painters are also pastel and charcoal artists because you can easily, well, with the pastel, what I love about pastel is you're picking up color with your fingers. You're not having to blend and mix it. The way pastel works is there's a pastel stick and the color is the color. So it's not like a tube of oil paint or a tube of acrylic or watercolor where we're doing all kinds of mixing. You just grab the color that you want. So when you're doing sketching, it's very easy to quickly pick up a couple of colors that you want that are already as it were pre-mixed colors and work with them. So let me show you some of the kinds of pastels that you might see if you were to go into a store and what's the difference between them. So these are called new pastels by Prismacolor. So quite often you can find this brand and you can find some of these even in your stationery stores, not just the fine art stores. But the new pastels are interesting in that they are blocks like this. So you see their sticks. Now you'll notice a lot of them are broken. That's fine. Okay. When you're working with pastel, you often, this is generally too big an area to be using this stick. You're going to break the stick and then you're going to you want those little corners that are there, and you want to use the side to get a big area. So you're constantly breaking them anyway. I know some pastel artists that when they get a new box of pastels, the first thing that they do is break them all. And you might be like, what? Why would you do that? They're so beautiful out of the box. And it's like, well, because they know that for the way that they paint, that they're going to need all those little pieces for doing little stroke work if that's their style, and so they're going to break them. It's just the way it is, and nothing to stress about. But what I like about working with the new pastels is they're a great way to do your outline sketches. So we are going to be doing that when we get ready to actually paint with the pastels. Now, here's another brand that you might find if you go to Jerry's Artorama. It's the Mungyo Gallery. And these are semi-hard pastels. So pastels like this new pastel, I would call a hard pastel. They're still, it can get very confusing because a lot of times people call these soft pastels or dry pastels as opposed to oil pastels, which are something totally different that we worked with before. These are dry. And the new pastels tend to be hard, what we would call a hard pastel. And then this is a semi hard, so they're just a little bit softer, but they also have that stick look to them. So let me show you my set here. So there they look, excuse me, they look like sticks. And notice I have lots of little sections here. Yep, little pieces. You don't throw any of it away because it's all good pigment. Even this little teeny tiny, I'm going to show you. There's a teeny tiny little piece right here. And I can still use that, pick it up and rub it on my surface so I don't throw those little pieces away. Here's another tiny piece. You can always use these little ones for details or just to cover a big area and use it up. That is good pigment right there. So do not throw it away. And lots and lots of little pieces in here, but they all do come in handy. So definitely, it's a kind of medium that I like that you can use. Essentially, you're using it all up. You don't have to throw it away if it gets dry because it's already dry. Now, a softer pastel than those, because that was a hard and a semi-hard pastel. Then we get into our soft pastels. So one of my favorite brands is the Sennelier brand out of France. And ooh, I went to the Sennelier shop in Paris when I was there a couple of years ago. It's dark and dusty and just full of art supplies, and it's just gorgeous. I loved it. So here is a set of Sennelier soft pastels, and these are, notice that they have a different shape. These are round. So here you go. That's what this one looks like. It's a round pastel instead of being a square pastel. So generally I use those square pastels to get lines and grids and to work out the portions or proportions of what it is that I'm going to paint. And then I use these softer round pastels to fill areas in and get softer marks with these rounded ends right here. And then once I've used that combination of the harder block together with this softer block, I will often come in at the end and use a pastel pencil to do details. So I'm going to show you my favorite pastel pencils. Oh, and by the way, I have lots and lots and lots and lots of different kinds of pastels. This is my small box of Sennelier. I have a massive box of Sennelier as well. And remember, we're not mixing the colors, we're just grabbing the color that we want. So it tends to be when you do paint with pastels, you need more blocks of, I need my darkest shade, I need a medium shade, then I need my regular color, and then I need a tint, which is a brighter version of it, and then I need an even brighter and paler version of that, and then I need the one that almost looks white. So from a standpoint of working with pastels, you tend to need to have more pastels over time to get you the exact colors that you want. Now, um, where are those pencils? That's what I was talking about. I wanted to show you the pencils. So here are this is a really cool wood pencil holder that I found somewhere along the line. So the pencils that I'm using for a particular project, I put in this little pencil holder right here. So these are pastel pencils. And then this is the set that they came out of. This is the Stabilo brand Carbothello pastel pencils. How many are in this one? 72? Ah, this is the 48 set. And I will, after my workshops are over, I go back in and I edit my YouTube video and I will add links to these various pastels, papers, and other products that I talked to you about for so that you'll be able to just go in and click on the item and be able to find it um, if you want to purchase any of the art supplies. Now, if you want to purchase my art, then I encourage you, if you're on YouTube, to go into the description of the video and click, and that'll bring you over to Whatnot, where the show is in progress, and you'll be able to take a look at the artworks that I have available for sale, as well as participate in the auction after the art course. Okay, so let me put these away for right now, but I usually will dive into these pencils at the end. Now, sometimes I will actually sketch with the pencils, so like do my initial outlining and sketch with the pastel pencils, and then I will come in with the others, the semi-hard and the soft pastels, in order to do the rest of the artwork. And then oftentimes I'll come back at the very end and go in there with the pencil and put in my details. Okay, let me show you. Oh, before we do that, one more thing here. You know, I like to show you books that I find very interesting and that I think have good information for folks about the subject. So this I also got at the Art Center Manatee. Woohoo! Again, a book from the Art Center, and it's called The Pastel Artist's Bible. So inside here, what I like about this book in particular is it has the ring binder. So the nice thing about the ring binder is if you have it on the table in front of you and you're going through a project, it lays flat on the table for you. And I just find it makes it easier than books that have a spine to them. So this one, what I wanted to show you in here was you see the effect of using different colored background papers, right? With the same colors of artwork. So certain colors of paper make your item jump off the page better. Better, better, better. And then this is, I thought, an excellent tip out of the book here. And this is saying a lot of times when you get your box of colors, that oftentimes the paper that was on it will come off, or you'll take the paper off. And if you want to remember what the color name or the color number is, they're suggesting that you can create this sketchbook or take a little book and put the colors in there and then write underneath there or above it what the color name and the color number is, and maybe the brand across the top. And that way you'll be able to you'll discover which colors you're using the most. And because when they get smaller and smaller, they don't have the color label on them anymore. You'll be able to just put a little swatch, compare it to your book, and say, oh, okay, that is Sennelier number 402. And then you know what additional or what color you need to replenish to order again. And so that was a great tip out of this Pastel Artist Bible. And I will have this book linked for you in the description of the video on YouTube tomorrow. I'll go back in and I'll add that. But nice, nice reference book if you are just getting started with pastels. All right, let me show you the artworks that I made using pastels and using the book, the Degas book. So that's this one right here, using his artworks as a reference. So the first thing I did was, whoops, hold on a second. My books are fallen. Not unusual. Okay. I wanted to do some sketching. So I grabbed this, which is notice it says it's a sketch pad, but you don't want just any sketch pad. You want a sketch pad that has textured paper. So if you'll notice right here, it says that it's like a heavy multi-purpose textured art paper. Okay. So when you're working with uh, um, charcoal or you're working with pastels, you don't want a smooth paper. You use smooth paper when you're working with markers. But if you're working with pastels and charcoal, you want a textured paper. So this was a nice textured paper, and I'm going to show you. So these are some sketches that I did of what? Ballerinas. And I was using images out of the Degas book here. So I was using sketches that Degas actually did of ballerinas, and then I was copying it. So the great artists become great by copying the greats and then developing your own style. So that's what I did here was I was copying an image that Degas did, and so I even made a note down here. It's Dancing Girl Pulling Her Stocking is the name of his sketch, and then I used charcoal and made my version of his sketch. Here's another one. And so this was, I did a little bit more shading with the charcoal on this one. And so again, this is Dancers at the Bar Study. Now I only put one dancer on mine. Of course, his work had multiple dancers at the bar. And then the last one that I did in this sketch pad, so it's okay to do your artwork on a sketch pad or at least experiment with new mediums on a sketch pad. And so this was some of his colored works that I had shown you earlier. These are the originals of the dancer with the orange tutu and the dancer in the blue outfit, so the blue ballerina. And those are the originals. I don't know if you can see sort of the hand strokes. Oh, thank you, Swirl 92. I appreciate that. Said, ooh, those are gorgeous. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And what you're going to notice on these two, if you look closely, is that the outlines are done with charcoal. So you see the outline of the arms, the outline of the dress up here, the outline of the face. I use charcoal to do those outlines. The same is true over here. You've got the black charcoal lines. That's what I did in order to create the outlines. And then I went in and colored the outlines in. And you'll find as you're coloring the outlines in, you're going to smudge and mess up your black outlines. So then you just go back. I love all those underlying colors in the red dress. Yes, well, and I don't know if you were here earlier, Swirl 92, but I was talking about this is a book about Degas. And in the back of the book here, I like to take artworks from famous artists and then try to recreate them to some degree myself. And so here is his painting of the dancers in the orange tutus. And so I just selected one of them and then did my artwork based upon his piece. So you see there. And I got the opportunity, of course, I can change the structure, any of the colors that I want in my piece. And that's what I did here. For instance, with the ground here and with the wallpaper in the background, and I eliminated the other dancer that was over here. So the good thing is it's your art and you can do whatever you want. But I find it is helpful to learn by replicating what the famous artists have done. So Degas spent a lot of time in the theater and in the ballet. watching, and they allowed him to come in because, you know, at that point he was a famous artist in the late 1800s, or probably around 1865, 1870. And so he would go in and sit there and do his sketches and then go back to his studio and either use pastel or he would use oil paints to make his paintings of the ballerinas. And he became known for um, his ballerina artworks, his theater artworks, and his um, horse racing artworks, as opposed to what a lot of artists were doing at the time was um, portraiture. And he did portraiture in the beginning, and then he was like, okay, stuff this. But he was from a wealthy family, so he could say stuff this and paint exactly what he wanted to paint. So that kind of explains that, right? All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to go over the table and I will show you some of the papers that are possibilities when we go over the table. Oh, also on my website, if you go to deetsart.com, which switches over to deetsart.gallery, that's my website, then you will also see articles that I write about art with links to the videos on YouTube. And then also there is an art supply link on my website if there's something that you want to go purchase. And it's not in the links in the article on my website. It might be in the supply links page. Okay, so that's all my bona fides. Let's talk about the paper that you're going to use. Now, I did show you just a moment ago that I had this sketch pad, and the trick was it needs to be a textured paper. So here it says that it's a textured paper. That's what you want when you're working with charcoal, or what we call dry media. So charcoals, pastels, um, graphite, that kind of thing. Not wet media. So we're not talking about watercolor. We're not talking about oil paint. We're not talking about gouache or acrylics. Okay, we're talking about dry media here. So this is a one of my favorites that Hanamula was kind enough to give to me, and it is a sketch pastel paper. So it's for pencil, charcoal, uh, Conti crayons, pastels, beautiful, beautiful white paper. So let me show you what that looks like in here. And it has a nice tooth to it. Now it's called a sketch pastel because it doesn't have a lot of tooth. It has just enough to do your sketches. And this is what we're going to start with to do a charcoal sketch of the ballerinas. Then there is Canson is very famous for their mi-tients paper. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I've never been standing in front of someone at Canson and said, "How do you pronounce that?" But me, it looks like tients or tienes. I don't know. If somebody in the chat knows, you can phonetically put it in there for me. But I love the Canson pastel pads of assorted colors. So this one you can see has some blue in it, and there's something I was practicing on the gray. Now you can do your finished artwork on these. However, I prefer them for sketching, what we were just talking about, to sketch on them because they are textured, but again, they don't have a lot of texture. So you're not going to get very many layers of color on it. Now, this is something that I just found recently, and I had to order it because it's a toned, there are gray and tan colors in here. There are 4 different colors, 40 sheets, 10 colors each. So I'll be sure to link this in the description of the video on YouTube later. But I was so enamored by the size of this and the tones of the colors. I said, oh, okay, that looks phenomenal. I can't wait to try this. So we are also going to do, we're going to do a colored sketch on this tone paper. And actually, you see it's brand new. So I am going to open it right here, right in front of y'all. And I can't wait to work on this colored paper. Let's see what it looks like on the inside in terms of the texture of it, because it says right here, pastel, oil pastel, colored pencil, charcoal, pencil drawings. That is right up my alley. And the name of the company is Papelsino. Papelsino. I believe it's Italian. But, ooh, interesting. Okay, this is much smoother than I thought that it would be. Looks like it might be better for using pencils, um, and maybe like charcoal pencils. But we'll see. We shall see, because I want to give that a try. So that's more like sketching paper. Then you have your more professional papers. This is what's called a sanded paper. So do you see on the back where it says 500 right there? So just like sandpaper has numbers on the back, you can buy your what's called sanded pastel paper in multiple colors and also in multiple grits. So that the 500 indicates the grit on the front. Now the way sandpaper works, if you have an 80 grit and you have a 200 grit, the 80 grit is actually bigger pieces and the 200 grit is finer. So I usually work in the 400 to 600 grit myself. Those are the ones that I like. They're not too gritty, and yet at the same time, they're not too fine. And so this is a whole pack of the 500. Now, before I would work with this, you notice it's curling just like a sandpaper would. And these are acid free. That's the difference. Don't just go buy sandpaper at the hardware store. The difference is that, hey, Dragon Hoarder, welcome in. This paper from U Art is it's professional. It's for it's made for pastel, and so this is a drawing board. All right, you can pick up at any art store, or you can just get yourself a piece of masonite. The nice thing about these is they come with these clips at the top so that you can attach your board or your piece of paper onto here to work with. So normally I would take a sheet like this, which is curled, and I would tape it down onto here. Now you can, before you paint on this, you can wet it. So I would actually spray it with some water to get it a little malleable. And then you use that gum paper and you stick it down onto here, and then that'll help keep it flat for you. That's one method. The other method is that you can actually glue this. You can use a dry glue, either a spray glue, or you can get glue in sheets. And you would put that on the back here, and then you can attach it to a foam board or something like that. And then that way, that also helps to keep this paper flat. But that's going to a lot of trouble, right? With the professional papers. What I like to do is I like to make my own pastel paper. So you can actually purchase, oh, and it's supposed to be here and it's not. So y'all hold on just a second, because I know exactly where it is. It's right around the corner. Oh, I meant to bring everything to my table, but it doesn't always happen. So hold on just a moment. Right here. Um, there's something called a pastel medium. So a pastel medium is something that comes in a jar like this, and you can take the pastel medium and you can put it onto any paper that you have. So if you don't want to go crazy and you just want to use um, a mixed media paper of some sort, but it's too smooth for you, you can buy like for instance, this is a fine tooth. They also have a what's it called? A super tooth, they call it. Or here is the golden textured acrylic primer. If you want extra grit, you can apply 2 coats of this pastel ground. So that's what I like to do, is I like to just take a good quality paper let's say that you're in even an Office Depot or a Staples, and maybe they have their marker paper on sale, and it has a nice thickness to it. So just, but it's smooth. Just pick it up, and then this is the front of it where I've put pastel ground on it. And so can you hear that now? It has lots of tooth to it. This is perfect for the layers of pastel that I like to put on. Now, you don't have to use it just in this putty color right out of the jar. You can add a little bit of acrylic paint colors to it, and then you can make your own papers in all kinds of interesting colors very inexpensively, y'all. Very inexpensive to make your own pastel surfaces, your own pastel papers. Oh, the surface here is just beautiful. Now, this is something called pastel paper. It says it's handmade decal edge. That means it's rough on all the edges. It's handmade, made in India. It was a decent price, but you know what I found? I found that when you try to work on it with your pastels, the pressure of putting the pastels on it actually lifts the paper fibers up. It's actually not good for pastel, but you can treat it. So what I did is first I put a layer of gesso on the back. Gesso is just an acrylic primer. So I want to make sure that I made the paper a little bit stiffer. And so I put a white primer on the back of these. And then on the front, I put, this says it's a clear color fix primer. And so the color of the paper shows through. Now you can notice there's a little bit of cloudiness there. And the reason that it's cloudy is that it's got some texture stuff inside here, like a pumice, a fine pumice. So even though it calls it clear, it's still got just a tiny bit of a a sheen or a shade to it. But you can still see the color of the paper through it, which is what I love. So there's the turquoise one, here's the green one, and these are already prepped. That's toughened them up, and they are ready for me to put pastels on them now. Woohoo! And then if you want to go like, love the blue, right? Dragon Hoarder? I know, I know. Maybe we'll have to do something on the blue tonight just to get it started. Break it in. So this is a rather expensive, so I only have one pad of it. What's called pastel card. And do you see all of these pastels on the cover? That beautiful picture. Oh, so yummy. Those are the thinner sennelier sticks of dry pastels. And this is a particular paper that's made just for soft pastel, charcoal, and pencil. And it has, I believe is it multiple? Yeah, 6 shades. So it also comes with different colors to it right there. But the difference between this one with the different colors and this Canson with the different colors is the Canson has a little bit of texture to it, and this one has a lot of texture to it. So this is the Sennelier pastel card, and it's got quite a bit of texture to the surface. Plus, each sheet is much thicker than what was in this Canson pad. And so it you don't have to mount it to anything. It's already attached to or put on a nice thick, almost paper board so that it is ready to work with right out of this pad. Beautiful, 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 beautiful paper. Who knew that paper could be so diverse, right? Right? Okay, so I'll put that blue one here, so maybe we'll work on that in a little bit. But aren't these fun? I love all the different colors in here, and when you have a medium like this that you can turn any paper into a pastel paper, then you can feel confident picking something like this up, even though, like I said, it says pastel paper. It's almost like when it says pastel paper, it's almost like they mean the colors as opposed to using it as a surface for pastel, because it is not a good surface for pastel. What happens is it pills up as you work on it, it starts the fibers start to come apart, and it's like, "What's happening?" Okay, so let's go ahead and we're gonna do a sketch on the white Hanamola, okay? We're gonna start with that. We're gonna do some when I'm warming up for pastel painting, I warm up with charcoal. And so, oh, this is that can make a cool effect though. Yes. A dragon hoarder, it actually is just super annoying. Now, if I was gonna work on top of this in a mixed media format and I was gonna glue things down on it, which I do a lot, um, then it's a perfect paper for me because it will take that acrylic medium very well. So it's nice and thirsty and it takes the acrylic medium well. But mm, it's just annoying when it comes to getting the pressure on there for for pastel. Mm. Okay, so we're going to start with the Hanamola. It's the sketch pastel. Of course, you can make finished artworks on here, but it is designed, with a lot of pages so that you can do sketches. Like you can see here, one of the last things I did was chickens. And so I was doing some sketches of chickens on there. What other sketches do I have in here? Usually I'll stick my sketches in the back. See where I'm just playing. There's the kitty cat I did on with charcoal on here. So I love this paper. I think it's a and this is mixed media. So I think it's fabulous, fabulous paper. If you're starting out, it's good quality. I'm gonna turn it over again so you can see. Okay, so snap a picture of that. Excellent, excellent quality. I can't do pastel. I make a mess. Ah, dragon hoarder. I get it. I get it. Pastels are messy. It is so true. But maybe from this you'll get a feel for charcoal, and then maybe you'll do a little bit of charcoal sketching, which is fab. I love charcoal sketching. Okay, so we're going to start with these, and this, believe it or not, this is Artist Loft. So I don't know if you can see that on there. It says Artist Loft. So that is from Michaels, right? And what I love this little set because it has a medium hardness. So this is charcoal, compressed charcoal and a pencil. So it has medium, hard, and soft. So I'm sometimes there's not a lot of difference between the softness, hardness, etc. But we're going to put them out here and we're going to see. Okay. So here's the soft. Here's the medium. Oh, yeah, there is a big difference here. And then there's the hard. So let me bring it up closer so you can see. What you're going to notice if you were here and looking at it, this one, which is the hard, is it's not depositing as much black. Okay, so it's a little bit more gray, like a dark gray. Then this one is the medium, and it's depositing a lot of black, but it's keeping the line width very well. And then this is the soft, and so with the soft one, you're going to be able to smudge it a lot, which I like to do a lot of smudging with my charcoal. And so I often use the soft. But for today, I'm going to use the medium because I want you to be able to see the lines, soft and hard. Now, some other options are this is a Derwent charcoal and a pencil as well. Let's see what this one does. Oh, that's actually pretty soft. And then this is the Carbothello that I showed you earlier. Carbothello is a pastel pencil. So let's see. Yeah, it looks like the medium. It looks kind of like a medium. Okay. So this came in my pastel pencil set for the Carbothello. I showed that to y'all earlier, but let me show it again real quick. So this is the Carbothello. That is pastel pencils. This is a 48 set. And that's what that black came out of right here. So you can do these same charcoal type sketches with a set of I'm sorry, pastel pencils because they almost always have a black in them. And you can use the black interchangeably with charcoal. Now, what I've done is I went out to Pixabay, my favorite royalty-free image site, and I got a bunch of pictures of ballerinas. And I wanted various ways that they were positioned so that I can do a couple of sketches with these different interesting ways that they're looking. I love this picture because I don't think of myself as very good with doing faces. So here you've got a ballerina that's looking downwards. And so there are no facial features to paint there. Love that. Um, Plus, another interesting thing about this picture that you might not know unless you were thinking about composition is something called foreshortening. So her knee is close to you, and so that means that this area on the back leg from up here, the top of the thigh to the knee, is actually longer than this area because it's closer to you and it's facing you. So there's some foreshortening going on in that picture. And I think that that is very interesting together with the pointed toe shoes there. Plus, you don't have to paint her face. This one is just pretty and fun. I like the position of her arms and the position of her feet. This little lady here has a nice positioning there. And so those are some of the pictures that I just went to Pixabay and I said ballerina poses. And these are some of the images that I got off of there. So we're going to start. How about with this young lady right here? I like it because of the pole in the background. So that gives me a reference to start from. So I'm just going to put this right up here so you can also see it. Right? Let me make sure you can see that. And then let's take the Artist Loft medium charcoal. Whew, let me tell you, these little bugs around here bugging me. Now you can use this like a pencil. You see how I'm holding it in my hand like a pencil? But when I'm drawing, I like to draw loosely. I like my drawing to be loose. And so I'm actually going to hold it like this in my hand. So instead of holding it like a pencil, I'm going to hold it like that. So that's more, you hold it like that, especially when I'm working with my willow charcoal pieces like this. Same thing. I like to hold them like this in my hand instead of holding them like this, like a pencil. Okay. And yes, my hands are already getting black. Oh my gosh. That's what happens. You work with pastel, you're going to get it everywhere. It is what it is. And I love it. I love it. I like it because it's something that it's very visceral. You're going to have paint all over you, as Dragon Hoarder said. Mm. So it's not just me. Nope, it's not just you, Dragon Hoarder. All right. So here's the young lady we have here in her pose. And we're just going to do the generality. We're doing some sketching. So I'm going to start with the bar here to give me a reference, okay, which is right about where her knee is. Now I need to be sure that I have plenty of room for the top part of her body. So I'm going to bring it down. Man, I'm cold, but I'm back. LOL, got caught in the rain. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you get caught in the rain. So I'm just putting down the pole here as a reference. Now, of course, she goes over top of the pole. So somewhere along the line, I may need to erase that. And if I do, let me see, where is my, hold on a second. I have a kneaded eraser. And so that is another tool that you'll need is a kneaded eraser. So I've got a kneaded eraser here. And let me put that over there. So this is if I need to erase something. So for instance, see, they call it a kneaded eraser because it's all gummy. See that? And so you're forming it into shapes and then picking up. Okay. So we are sketching, so I'm not worried about lines being in other places. When you go and you do your final artwork, I love those erasers, right? I know, they're awesome. Now, what you're going to notice though on this paper is you see how it didn't pick up the whole line? And the reason for that is because this is a textured paper and it's designed to hold the dust from these things, from your writing instruments. Okay, so now let's, that is going to be right about where her knee is. So her knee, so what we're doing right now, we're sketching. This doesn't have to be anything like phenomenal. So we've got her thigh here, comes up to her knee, which comes into here. Okay, so she's got her dress comes around like this and then down, right? Ooh, there we go. And then back behind here, we've got a little bit more of her dress coming over. There we go. Hey, that's not too bad. Let's get her. I love the ribbons, right, that come across on the shoes of the dancers are so cute. Okay, and this comes like this. Nice. So there's that part of it. And then there's a little bit more is going to come over here. And then it's going to come up into her waist. Now there's another leg coming down here with the calf. And then I love, 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 love the point, right? That's probably what Degas was excited about too, from a drawing perspective, is those shoes and that pointing. Oh, the satin is just, they're so pretty. Okay, and then we come up here, and then we go around here to the back, and then her foot comes up like this. I may not have made her leg long enough, I'm not sure. But that's part of why you sketch. You sketch so that you can look at your proportions and go, oh, I need to sketch that again. Okay, so now we've got her leg, we've got her dress. There's a little bit of the where I went over the shoe. Again, it's a sketch, so it doesn't really matter. But interesting here is this comes this way and up to her teeny tiny little waist because she's a little girl. She's a young lady, right? And then this comes up and there's this interesting little plunge here. And then a plunge, this comes up here like this. And then it comes down and like that. There we go. So there's her dress. Of course, it's going to come across here like this because she has netting there and she's got a something that comes up here, up here. Her shoulder comes over here. So a lot of course drawing is simply observation. So where does her elbow come? Pretty much right there. And then the rest of her arm comes out this way and her hand goes across the bar. So, whew, it looks like she has super long arms. So proportion wise, I think I put this a little bit high up here, but that's why we do these exercises, right? And so this actually comes down this way and then down this way. And then her hand goes over here and she has a few fingers coming over there. There we go. Ooh, she looks anemic because I made her arm like way too small. Sketch, sketch, sketch. The more you sketch, the better you'll get with proportion. And then her neck comes up. We're coming here. Neck comes here. And there's an ear. And then the hair. Oh, The hair needs to come up that way a little bit more. She has a part, more hair. Whee! Wow. So the first time you approach a subject, don't be hard on yourself. Give yourself some grace, yeah, because you're figuring it out. So then her her face comes in here. There we go. And then the neck comes down and around. And I just love the way her arm comes up here. There's her elbow, and then up this way. And then, of course, you have to be very gracious with the way that you shape your hand, right? And that's what she's doing here. So let's put one finger out, a couple of fingers down. There we go. And then there's the hand, the wrist, the rest of her arm coming down. Her elbow comes in like this. And then she's got a little bit more of the arm here. Oh, and then like that. Okay. Wow. Yeah, I gave her way too long a, hey, Vibrant Southern Wind, welcome in, welcome in. Too long of a torso there, right? If I'd made this part wider and her legs longer, but that's why we do these exercises. I think if I had put the second bar in here, you see the second bar that goes behind her? So the second bar is right about here on this picture. But had I put the second bar in so they were closer, I would have had her proportions better. Okay, so when you do these sketches, you're actually going to do them over and over and over, and that's what you'll see that with Degas, he just has sketch after sketch after sketch. And most of the time, he doesn't put the face in either. And we get a little bit going there. So, yeah, I like this part right down here. Now, of course, the dress is black and the hair is black, so we can go in. This one was the medium. I can take the soft one if I want to get something darker. And when I go in with the soft, I end up getting more darkness. If I want to come in here and drop in a shadow and then use my finger there, then that will help. I use the soft to help get me my shadows. There's a little bit of a shadow down here behind her arm. And then, of course, her dress here is black. So notice I'm not doing this like a pencil like this, because otherwise I get lines. So if you want lines, do it like a pencil. But if you want it to be more cover the area, you do it on the side here. And then that will help to cover it. Faster, faster. And that gives you more of an idea of what your picture should look like. Okay, so that is one sketch down. But you learn a lot, right? When you do your sketches, you're like, okay then. Now, the interesting thing is behind her, her dress is a little more gray. So rather than using the soft, which is going to give me the darker color, what am I going to do? I'm going to switch to the hard, which is going to give me a little bit lighter gray color. There we go. So you still want black, but you want it to be a little lighter. That's why you switch up to this one. Okay. And she is wearing white tights and pink shoes. I think I'll just make the shoes gray for now. Put something in there. And my fingers get so involved. There we go. Just so there's a little something on the shoes there. All right. So that's what I would do this same sketch. Let's see. I do have a question. Okay. What would you sell a print 4x6 of an original art for? A print. Okay, Southern Vibrant Wind, the 4 by 6. Um, Normally what I do is I put the 4 by 6, and thank you for your question. I normally will take a 4 by 6 print. So let me show you. I have a 4 by 6 print here. I'll take this print and I will put it in a mat. So I buy mats for them so that it is being sold as a 4 by 6 print with a mat, which is matted to 5 by 7, and then I charge $15 for that. All right. So you get a feel for that. And I print these on my Epson printer with the permanent inks, so they're excellent quality. But what I've done before when I'm introducing my prints, Vibrant Southern Wind, on Whatnot, often I will do $1 starts. And it'll just be the print starting at a dollar if I'm introducing something new, like a new series or something. And then it's fun, right? I have a lot of originals and I don't want to sell them. Oh, then it's perfect. If you take a look, Vibrant Southern Wind, go into the little house at the bottom of the screen and then click on Buy Now and look through there and you'll see some of my prints. So you'll see my giraffe print, when I've given away or sold the original, um, like the giraffe. Let me find Sophie the giraffe. So here's Sophie. Hey, here's Sophie the giraffe. And this is printed on 5 by 7 and printed on 8 by 10. This is like a 9 by 12. Then um, I get it to the point where the print is ready to go, and then you'll see if you look in my buy now that I have the matted 4 by 6 in a 5 by 7 frame, the matted 5 by 7 in an 8 by 10 frame, and then the matted 8 by 10 in a 9 by in a 11 by 14 frame or mat. I'm sorry, not in a frame, but in a mat. So if you go look in my, and so I sell them for 15, 25, 35. All right. So that just gives you an idea if you're interested in that. Now, these I haven't put up yet. These are actually prints that are limited edition. So you can see I signed it with a number here. And then this is called countersigned it. So I put my signature on here. And I haven't figured out what price I'm selling these for yet. But these are called limited edition prints, which are different from just your prints that you can print up in what's called an open quantity. So there's no limit to it. Those are open editions, and the ones I just showed you with the signatures are limited edition. So I have very few limited editions so far out on Whatnot, but I do have a bunch of the prints available with the mat. You are quite welcome. I'm happy to answer your questions. I'm glad I happen to have that sitting right next to me. Okay, let's look at another one of I think I'll do this one in color. So here's another one of the little girl with the arms. And I see how her leg is back here with her shoe underneath. Hey there, S. Diedrich. Welcome in. Welcome in. Um, I love that. I love the look of that. So, and then there again, you see how her arms are in different positions. So that's what I'm looking for. At least for me, I'm looking for interest like that. Like I said, this other this other one that I just did, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do it over and over and over again until I get the right proportions out of that one, right? Because that does not look like that. Okay. But we all go through these stages of, okay, you need to become familiar with your subject. And so I didn't go directly into painting this one or painting this one in color. Oh, there you go. You can see it better. That one and that one. I didn't go directly into that. I did a bunch of sketches in charcoal like this so I could get the proportions right before I went into doing it on with color. So let's And they call this sketch paper because the idea is you're sketching and then you're moving on, moving on. So they give you a lot of pages in the book here. So let's try this little girl real quick. I'm going to use a different one of the pencils. No, what I'm going to use is my Vine charcoal. I just love Vine charcoal. Okay, so this is a Vine charcoal. Let's see. Wow, so smooth and so dark. That's why I love the Vine charcoal. I actually prefer to do my charcoal drawings with Vine charcoal. And I showed you earlier this really cool package, and I like it because it protects these different sizes. So let's say that instead of going in with the dark one, the big one, I'm going to start with the skinny one. And of course, I don't want one that size, so I'm going to break it right away. And I just want a piece like this. Oh my gosh, y'all, it's so smooth. I just love it. Love Vine charcoal, but of course it's the messiest, right? Okay, so what are we gonna do with her this time? We're gonna work on her, the head is like this over here. Let's see, maybe if we start with the head this time instead of the legs, I might actually get it in proportion. And the hair, okay, the neck coming down here and this way here. The arm, oh, I just love the way the arm comes out and up, and the fingers. Just so stick your finger out, right? It just looks really, really nice. And then there's a little bit of darkness in her palm there. I'm gonna bring her arm down. We have her elbow out here, and then that looks like it might be a little more in proportion this time. And then let's bring her neck down here. So she's got her neck and the bottom shoulder here. And the bottom shoulder comes around. And then where is her elbow in relation to? So you're constantly, when you're doing people, you don't have to, because you can be as wild as you want to. We did that before. We did the whimsical figure, right? Before is one of the previous classes that I taught, because you don't have to draw in proportion. But if you're looking to draw in proportion, then what I'm looking for here is this elbow in relation to where it is up here. So her elbow bend comes right about in the middle there. And so then that's her arm comes up here and her other hand comes out. And her thumb is here. Sketchy, sketchy, sketchy. So let's just get this part of her arm right here. And then this part comes up like that. And then we see a strap and we see her outfit right here. There's some of her skin comes down here and her outfit comes. Oh, let's see if I can actually get the proportions somewhat right this time. Okay, then like that. All right, let's come over this side and her arm comes down like this and across here and then down, down this way, kind of like this. And then her skirt sort of falls down like that. Oh, we're looking a little bit better. A little bit better right here. There's a little bow in the back. I like the bow in the back of the dress there. Let's see. And then we've got that flips and comes this way, comes up here, and then up here, and then this comes down here, and then we've got some of her skirt coming this way. Okay, so we've got the black dress slash skirt. That was a little bit too, whatever. We'll make it work. And then we've got her leg underneath here, right? So her leg's coming down. And then we have her calf. And then over here, her leg comes down here. There's her knee right here is kind of the knee. And there's a bend in after the knee. So really it's You have to get into the power of observation here, right? And then her foot comes down, and she has that lovely ballerina shoe on, which looks super extended. They look super long. Ribbon here. Oops, nope. First we have to bring this part right here. And ribbons around here. Now remember, I've got, if I need to, I have my kneaded eraser, right? If I go, oh man, I made a mess at the end of that shoe right there. As I said, this paper has some texture, so not all of it is going to pick up, but some of it picked up. There we go. So that's one foot facing that way. Now let's see if we can, what can I do with the other foot? The other foot's coming here. We've got a little bit of her knee coming this way. And this back leg is actually going to be slightly skinnier because of the fact that the leg is behind her. Okay. And then it comes down like this. And this one, we've got the, what is that called? The back of your leg that has a little bit of extra meat to it. There we go. Well, we're almost getting her here. This looks like it needs to come this way just a little bit more, doesn't it? Okay, and then we've got ribbon here. We've got a crisscross. Oops. Did you notice that? This just broke. But I am not crying because I can use all of these little pieces, right? It's a beautiful thing. And then here we've got some more coming across like that. And we've got a bump in the foot right here. And then I just think it's so interesting how her foot comes back. So here we've got where it comes down. Not that far. Comes down about like that. And then comes over here. Oh, a little bit longer and around. Wow. Well, that's a big foot. Interesting because you see how she's very elongated here. And then, but she's even more elongated here. So let's get this shoe kind of drawn in there like that. And I want to be sure that I have that one right there. So this foot, in actuality, if you look here, they're on the same level. So if I had been smart, I would have drawn a little line, just a little line right here. And then I would have had this foot shorter, right? So those are the tricks you learn as you're drawing. Now this, remember how I said you might want to get some dark color and this can help with that. So let me, this is like beautiful, gives you beautiful darks very quickly. So this is the charcoal. And I just love the big pieces like this because you can lay this down so quickly. I can even turn it on its end like this and cover big areas very fast. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. Just love the darkness there. There you go. Now, there's dust on there, right? Because when you work with charcoal and you work with pastel, you're going to end up with dust. So what I showed you all before in one of my past sessions was the super cool, ah, this super cool handy dandy Faber-Castell desktop vacuum for artists. So when I'm working with charcoals or I'm working with pastels and I want to get the dust up, you know, you're always told don't blow on it, don't blow on it, right? So this is so cool. It's battery operated, and you can take this and you can just set it on top of your work here, and it just sucks up those little bitty bits like that. I just love that. Now, there are little spots here where instead of it picking it up, this one right here decided it would splat. I don't know why, but that's why you have this, and then you can come in and pick that up. The little spots that are being hard. There you go. But at least that gets the lion's share of the bits up using the little using this little thing right here. Oh, so much better. There we go. Okay. So this is another uh, shape here that I would work on and I would work on and work on several times. Now we have the benefit today of having photographs, right? So I can use this photograph of this young lady, this ballerina, and I can just work over and over and over again. What Degas had to do is he developed his, as Ingres had said, draw and then draw more. You know, that becomes the basis of any of your work. Um, and so I would do this same picture, and as would he would do his sketches quickly like this in the studio where he's watching the dancers themselves. Because they did have photography in the late 1800s, but it wasn't that great. It was cumbersome, it was expensive, um, and so he would go into the ballerina studios where they were practicing, and he would just do these sketches constantly, and he got very, very fast. I took my time working on that, but he had to learn how to do it. It's called a gesture drawing. Do it very quickly, and so once I would get the form down, I would then speed it up. Maybe put a clock on with a timer. Ding. That looks like Millard Fillmore. Oh, I'm not familiar with who Millard Fillmore is, but you know what? I'm going to write it down right now and I'm going to look it up. So thank you for that information over on YouTube. I'm going to write down look up Millard Fillmore, Filmore. Thank you very much for that advice. I'm going to check it out for sure. Now we're going to do something in color. So the one that I want to do in color, let's do this one right here. Oh, I love that pink and I like the position that she's standing in. Plus, we don't have to worry about the face, the facial features, right? Because I prefer not to have to deal with facial features, hence why this one has no face to it. So rather than, you know what, let's do a quickie sketch on the sketch paper here. And by the way, the nice thing about this sketch paper is it has nice texture on both sides. So, you know, when I'm doing I would literally do another sketch right here, and then I would flip it over and I do one or two more sketches on this side. So, you know, use your sketch paper to its fullest. And you can do your sketches on multiple sides, unless you feel like your sketches are going to become a finished artwork. Then just do what I'm doing here and, you know, tear off each page as you go. But I usually will do multiple sketches on here. As a matter of fact, let's use this one. And I will do a sketch of this on just right down here. So let me take one of these little pieces. I love the bun on the top of her head. I think the bun is just so cute. So there's her bun. And then her head comes here, or her hair rather. And then I love that the face kind of comes down in a very strong V like this when you're looking at it. Let me bring it up here. If I think of it, I will include this picture in my article on my blog in the next couple of days, so that if you want to do the same exercise, you can. You'll have the photograph from Pixabay. We've got her eyes here, a kind of nose, and a bit of a mouth down here. And then I like the way her shoulders come off of the side of her head right here, like that. And then her arm comes down and she has her hands here. That is so cool. And then her shirt comes around this way, also sort of in that shape. And then over here, her neck is, her back is coming around this way, and the same. Let's do that there. We've got this here. We have a little sleeve. We've got this arm coming down. I'm just working out a sketch before I go to actually do it on a paper where we're going to put color on it. And then like that, and then her hands. So she's got her hands kind of coming down here like this. Interesting, right? I like that. That shape is, I think, is very interesting. And then here, and boy, we've got a tutu, don't we? We've got a tutu coming out here. Oh yeah, that ruffle is fabulous. And then we've got more ruffle over here. And we can bring the tutu out as far as we want, right? On that. And then, of course, she's got her legs coming down here, which I would definitely. It's going off the page, y'all. So we're just going to go ahead and why don't we do it on this beautiful blue paper that Dragon Hoarder was saying, ooh, ooh, that looks really cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch from the loosey-goosey of this vine charcoal to using one of the pencils. Okay, so let's grab a pencil. This one is the Derwent medium charcoal pencil. And if you need to sharpen your charcoal pencil, some people use a blade and sharpen it with a blade. I have right here, you've probably gotten one of those drawing sets that has the drawing stump and maybe a chamois cloth in it. Hey, do I have a drawing stump in here? That'd be great if I did. Let's see, drawing stump, drawing stump. Yes, awesome. Drawing stumps come in all different sizes. So I have a big one and a little one. That's for shading different areas. But if for some reason I want to sharpen this pencil, what you'll find is if you try to sharpen pastels, often they just break right off because of the nature of the pastel. So what I do, and the reason you get this in your little sets with your chamois and your blending stumps, is that this is how you can sharpen your pencil like that. And not only is it how you can sharpen your pencil, but there's debris left on there. Let's do this just for fun. I'm going to put the debris on here. You can actually pick up the debris. This is the chamois that comes in one of those drawing sets, and you can add it onto your surface if you want to. Now, it shows up better on a white surface, but you can do some really cool things with the dust from the charcoal. All right, and there's somebody on Instagram, and his channel name is Mad Charcoal. Mad Charcoal. Go check him out. Oh my gosh. He does a lot of where he takes the charcoal dust and throws it on and then starts with that and then uses his charcoal to create his designs. He's a master. Okay, let's try this again. This time I'm gonna just create this. So you see why it's really helpful to have done your sketch, your preliminary sketches beforehand, so you have a better feel for um, your subject before you get started doing this. And we got her hair coming this way. Nice. And her face kind of in a bit of a triangle right here. Nice. Okay, the tops of her there. That's this, that. So you don't have to get too fancy. And then we've got the shoulders coming out here again, and then sort of like that. And she's got her shirt comes around this way and down like this, and then up. We've got this side, nice, and then the same, sort of like that. And this comes up around this way. So we're beginning to get the upper portion of her body. I gave myself plenty of room down here to be able to have her legs in the picture this time, thankfully. Okay, so then there's a little bit of, you can see sort of her shape here. And then this comes down and around here. And then we have an arm coming this way. Now I'm starting with a very light touch, but I will be building other colors in here. This is just my initial outline. Her hand is not big enough, so I need to bring her hand a little bit bigger. There. Okay. And then we're going to bring this arm over here. What I love about this picture is that there's lots of plays of dark and light in the in here. So I'm going to show you that. If you look at the edge of her arm, you see how dark it is right there, and then you have a really bright light source right here. And you've got really bright over here and very dark in here. I love that. So that's something to look for when you're looking at photographs to choose to do your artwork is definite light source. Like, where is that light source coming from? And is it nice and heavy so that you can get good information about the direction of that. Okay, so we're just doing that. Okay, so now we've got her arms coming down. I need this arm to be a little bit, just a little bit thicker up there. And then I can put a little bit of that shadow in there, of what we're going to be working with. And there's a little more shadow over here, right? This is just laying down the shadow generally, but I'll be coming in with other colors to do that there. Okay, so let's get the outline of the skirt, which I think is such a cute little tutu moment going on there. And then we have some ruffles, some more ruffles. Now the ruffles, I actually, just like I did in my sketch, I'm pulling the ruffles down a little bit too far. So if you'll notice here, her legs start to show underneath there. So the ruffle actually comes along here, and there's a little bit of a line here where her leg starts. So I can't have the ruffle of the skirt down so far like I had it. Okay, there we go. More ruffles, more ruffles. And then here, more ruffles are going to come over here. And I'm actually going to exaggerate the ruffles a little bit over here because I can. There we go. Actually, let's bring this out this way. So that's why we're sketching, is so that we can just add to it. And I want to get it somewhat I actually want to make it a little bit more even there. Okay. So then here, there's some foreshortening going on with her foot. And we've got her little shoe comes out here and then down. Beauteous. And then like that. And then out here. And then up past her. There we go. And then the other foot comes back behind, or the other leg rather, and foot comes back behind. And then we've got the shoe coming out this way. And around here like this. And then the foot and here. And we've got a heavy, and then this coming up here. And then you can see her knee back in here. Okay. So as you can see, what happened here, I ended up down on the page again. So that's obviously something for me to work on. Is I tend to work and end up down near the bottom of the page, but that's okay because that just means I can put something cool up in the background of her, right? But now that we've got this part done, I actually don't have her breasts quite right there. There we go. That's better. And we have just a tiny bit here. There we go. Now, I'm going to do the most exciting part because we're almost to the end of our time for our demonstration. But I'm going to work on the most important part here, and that is her tutu, right? Actually, there's the blonde hair, there's the tutu. So this is where I would normally come in to start with either my new pastels or my semi-hard pastels because I want a pastel that gives me a little bit more control at this point before I go into the bigger, softer pastels. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to lay some hair in. So let's look at some of the, let's look at a color like this one. So we'll put that one in first. Then we're just following the direction that her hair is here. Hello there, Truman29. We're doing an art lesson right now, and then we're going to go into an art auction after that. I have both prints and originals. If you're on YouTube and you'd like to join us over on Whatnot for the auction and the giveaway after this demo, then feel free on YouTube to go into the description of the video, and that will bring you over to the show in progress here on Whatnot. So what I'm doing with this, the nice thing about using these semi-hard block pastels when you're first laying in your design is that you can use those corners and edges to define your marks and define the direction that things are going in. So you see there, I use two different types of marks on the hair so that you can see the bun is going this way, right? Now, I can see that where the bun matches the hair here, it's darker. So let's go with a little bit darker color in here. So I'm just darkening this area in here to give, so you can see that. Now, what if I want a blend so it's a little softer? And actually there's this really cool orange right here that's slightly darker. So let me bring that in as well, and that can help to blend it. Plus she has sort of a, there we go. So remember I said there were blending stumps and there are two sizes here that I have, but oh my gosh, they come in so many different sizes. So I can take the end of the blending stump. I usually clean it on a paper towel like this, and then I can actually go in and blend these colors together. There we go. So you start to develop your background that way. And there's a little bit of dust there. So if you don't have a desktop vacuum like this, I would take this to my trash bin, and I would tap it to get the excess off. But of course, because I have this, this is a little vacuum, and I can put it right over top of there, and I can pick up the excess. Ooh, so exciting. So exciting. Ah, just like that. So then you can begin to build up your design. I can see I need a little bit more, a little darker, a little darker. Back to this darker one right here in order to define that darkness. And I can also uh, bring in a little bit of, this is a chart, the pastel pencil. I can bring in just a little bit of black if I want to darken it. That's the nice thing about the pencils is you can make really small marks with the pencils. If you just want to add a little bit in there, and I'm going to turn it around now and use it on its side, and I'm going to get a little bit of the, if you look here, you can see there's a shadow on that side, right? Now, the interesting thing about the shadow is it's not just black, there's also some blue or purple in the shadow. So I'm just laying in a little bit of black to start, but then why not put like a really cool blue, an interesting blue in there? So there's a blue piece, and I'm just going to bring some blue in to that shadow to develop the shadow. Now, so I'm bringing it in there too. I can then take it. So there's a lot of push, pull, push, pull. You're putting down color, you're pushing it in like this, and that's sort of creating a background. And then I'm going to come back over top of it again with that blonde and create lines again. So back behind the blonde, there's a little bit of that richness of the shadow. But then also, what I love about working on a colored paper is that the color of the paper can also show through. And so that is also fun, right? All right, let's, let me just put a little bit of this darker in there. There you go. So that's the beginning of the hair. And I can go right over top of the outside of that charcoal line. And the interesting thing is you'll barely even be able to see that the charcoal line was there once I build more layers of color over top of it. Now let's go ahead and get a fun color in the tutu. And so definitely we've got the hot pink. Let's, you know what? I want to draw in some shadows first. So why don't we get a few shadows in there? And the shadows are kind of purpley. So let's grab a purple. Whether the shadows are purple or not, I find you can always use purple for shadows. At least I do anyway. So remember the light's coming from over here. That's why I had a shadow in her hair. Actually, and oftentimes people ask me, you know, how many layers of pastel do you put on your paintings? Well, a lot. I usually end up putting anywhere from 8 to 20 layers of pastel, depending on what I'm working on. So here I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to put in some of the darks over here. So I'm just building in a little bit of the drama around the skirt, like that, because I can just come back in and put some of that pink right on top of there. So notice that I'm not being too terribly careful about it. The fact that you end up putting layer upon layer upon layer just means that You don't when you're first starting out with your layers, just have fun and put a bunch of color in it, and don't worry too much about it because you're gonna be putting more layers on and adjusting it. Okay, there's to start. I am gonna put a little bit of the purple underneath here and right here as a shadow, right? Building a little shadow onto there. I'm just looking to see what I see. Okay, yep, a little bit there, a little bit along the arm right there, a little bit of shadow in here. So the power of observation, right? You're going to be looking and looking and looking. Oh, there's also a bunch of shadow over here, but I don't want one quite this dark. So I'm going to go and I'm going to look for one that's a little bit lighter version of purple. So if you weren't here earlier, one of the things I said um, about when you're working with pastels is that you're not mixing your colors, you're layering your colors, so you're going to need all the colors of the rainbow and every shade and tint in between as well. So here we've got some on her white leotards. We've got a little bit of shadow there, and we have a little bit of shadow over here. So I decided to make it a little bit lighter color of purple. So I either use purples or I use blues for my shadows generally. So let's go ahead and I'm using it on its side. I'm just the reason that I do this is I am layering those colors into the background. So remember how I said I developed some tooth on there by putting one of these primers, a pastel primer. So I'm laying the color in onto the tooth, and then that way it won't move so much when I come in order to add more colors on top. A lot of people will just use their fingers for this, which is fine if you want to, but oftentimes, A, you don't necessarily want to get your fingers all dirty, and B, the oil from your hands can affect the colors. So just bear that in mind. There we go. Now I want to move to the lighter purple, so I just do that and move to the lighter purple, like that. And then that way, if I've pushed it into the surface tooth, I can easily layer other colors right on top. Okay. Oh, let me look at the feet here. There was a little bit of, see how there's a little bit left on here? Actually, I'm going to pick up a little bit from here to put on the bottom of the shoe right there because there's a shadow on there from her other shoe. And let's shadow a little bit of this too. There we go. So we're getting there. Let's go to some brighter pinks. Now I've got pinks and oranges I think would look nice on the skirt. So here's a deeper pink, and then here is a brighter pink. And let me see here. So I've actually got a bunch of different shades of pink. And so I'm going to start with my darker one. Actually, there's the deep carmine. This one's even darker still. So I'm going to start with the darker one, and I'm going to come into the background here. This is where you can begin to have fun with your strokes. You can do little teeny tiny strokes. You can break this into a smaller piece. Like here's a smaller piece. I was telling you don't throw any of those away. And then you can make your strokes different and thicker. You can stipple, which is to just pounce up and down and get a stipple effect. So you can start to see the stippling and the broader strokes and the lighter strokes there. So any size piece will work with this. So we begin to layer. Let's see over here. I'm going to do a little bit of the darker layering in here. And in here, this whole area over here is a little darker. So I'm just going to put a little bit of the dark here where her shirt meets the skirt. There we go. Now I'm going to, here we go. I'm going to come back in. I'm going to put this into the tooth. You don't have to do this part. If you prefer the just to layer, if you are going to use less layers of on your surface, you do not need to do this pressing into the tooth. You can just go right on with another layer. I just find for the way that I work, I like because I like so many layers and I like a lot of complexity in my finished work. So I like to do this in between layers. There we go. And I'm going to pick up the dust here. We're just going to work on the skirt. What happens most classes is I will show you the technique and get partway through the artwork, and then I will finish the artwork afterwards, and it will be available. I'll show it to you at the next workshop. I'll show you the finished version of the artwork. So here we picked up the dust. Again, I could have taken it and let me put it on one of these right here. Oh, don't go anywhere. Okay, so if I take this and I go like this, you're gonna see little bits of dust on there. That's what I was picking up with the Faber-Castell. Now, I built a couple of layers using these semi-hard, and I could do my whole painting with these semi-hard. Now, so here's some bright pink. Let me just bring some of this exciting bright pink into here with some marks. And then, of course, most of this side is bright pink, right? So you want to suggest movement by making your marks go in various directions. There we go. So that's some of the way. Now, see, normally I would push those in and then put more marks over top of that because I like the blended look myself. I'm bringing some more of the pink in there and a little bit more of the pink down in here. Um, and so let's do this just a little bit to sort of blend it in because on this side, you know, it's not as pink as it is over here, right? Because there's darkness. The light is coming from over here. So when I do this on this side, it's a lot more pink. Now, what I wanted to show you is normally I will do a bunch of layers like this where I have a little more control with the stiff semi-hard pastels, and I have those edges and those corners to work with. And then when I get near the end of my painting, I want to add more exciting marks to my surface. So I come in with my softer pastels. So these are the Sennelier, and you'll see in just a second what I mean by softer. So notice that these are not square, these are round. And they're actually very dusty. You see how much came off on my fingers just by picking it up? So often when I get to this point and I'm going to be working with the very soft pastels on top, I will put gloves on. So yeah, you know, anywhere during the process, if you want to keep your hands somewhat clean, you can put gloves on. But here we go. Oh, I see a bunch of people over on YouTube. Thank you for joining me this evening. Appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying the pastel workshop. It is after Degas, who did a lot of paintings of ballerinas, right? Okay, so here we've got, this was the semi-hard pastel. So you don't have quite as much dust with the semi-hard pastel. But now I've got these luscious, lovely soft pastels from Sennelier. These are actually half sticks. A normal Sennelier stick is longer than that, but this is a demi set right here, 20 demi pastels, okay, assorted half pastels, which if you're starting out, this is perfect. And I will have a link in the description of the video tomorrow. I'll go back in and I'll edit the video and I will add links to these various, the charcoals and this set of Sennelier, so you can just click on it and purchase it if you want to try it. But I love the Sennelier small set. Um, Excellent for travel. It has a nice selection of colors. So let's go totally out of the box and put this like bright orange in the areas where the sunshine is, right? Both like down in here. Why not? Just for something a little different, just to, because pinks and reds can tend to be a little bit cool in color. And a color like this that's sort of like peach can add a pop of um, warmth because there's a lot of light over here, right? So you want a pink that has a little bit more warmth in it. And then I can bring a little bit of it. Now, what you're going to notice about these marks is they're much broader. And you can see I'm getting some of the other color onto my pastel there. But that's okay. That's all right. But I like to make, in general, I like to make my final marks with my Sennelier, or Schminke is another brand of very soft pastels. And so let's do this. So I put that peach in there in order to bring a little bit of warmth because the light in our photograph is coming from this direction right here, right? That direction. So I want this area to have a little bit of peach in it so it can warm it up. And then I also have here, I have the bright pink. Let's see what the pink looks like from Sennelier in here. And I like doing small strokes. There are many different ways to use pastel. And I like for the finished piece to have what's called the hand of the artist. So in this case, it's my strokes, whatever types of strokes I like to do, that's what I like to have in the finished piece. So let's bring some of this throughout the skirt here, and you have the beautiful peach showing through to show the warmth there. And bring some over here over top of the dark areas and along the edge there. Okay, so it's giving some more interest to the skirt. Can you see that? You can see all those strokes. Now, right now I'm dotting the strokes on, but somewhere along the way, I'm going to want to create some lines to give the impression of the lines of the skirt. So here is an interesting looking purple, and I can bring that in, and that can create some of the lines and the shadows so that you can begin to see that there are some lines in here and some shadowing going on. And that will give you more of the impression of the direction of the skirt. This is a little bit brighter purple than the other one that I used earlier. But now you're beginning to feel like there are some lines to the skirt. Just giving the impression, this is what we would call impressionistic painting, right? Certainly not realism by any stretch of the imagination. So there you go. You're starting to be able to see some of the lines in the skirt there, right? Now you could do that with black, but I like to work with the various colors in order to make that happen. Okay, so that gives you an idea of how I would come back in after the fact with my softer pastels. So I usually work from hard to semi-hard or so hard or semi-hard, those blocks to start with. And then I come in with my soft like this. And then there are some brands that are what they you would call very soft. And if I wanted to give a real hazy background here, I would want to use one of my very soft pastels. So, what would be a very soft pastel? Something like a schminke would be a very soft pastel that you could put a fuzzy background in. Now, these are also somewhat soft. So, let me see what could I put in here as an interesting background. I think I will start with, let's put this one in. It's very earthy, right? So notice instead of using it on the end or on a corner, I'm using it on the side so I can bring my color in like that. And I'm working on a very highly textured paper, which you can see by the way it's picking up the texture, right? So this is just putting a background in, a basic background. Now, of course, I'm going to go around it and I'm going to do some other effects. Um, so that gives an inch, and now I have a flat side on this round, round pastel. Plus, I have pastel all over my hands. Ooh, I see a little area here where we need a little bit more. Bring a little bit more into there because there are lots of hills and valleys in this paper, which is great. I love that. Okay, now you can get a bokeh effect. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but a bokeh effect is where it has a very soft background and it looks sort of like it's got little bubbles in it. So I'm going to take the um, this is the kneaded eraser. I'm going to take the kneaded eraser and I'm going to make a little circle in the top of it. And then I'm going to lift some of this color out. Well, this one's not giving you much of a bokeh effect, is it? Okay. It works better on a smoother paper. I have a very textured paper here, so it's not giving me the bokeh effect. But normally, can you see all the pastel that's in there now? So if I were on a smooth paper and I were doing that, it would pick it up and give you these interesting little bubble looks. But at this point, I can just go like this with my finger and sort of get the color into the texture of the background. Oh yes. So you don't have to use the blending stumps. You can use your fingers. I just prefer if I'm using my fingers to have a glove on so I don't get the oils from my hands on there. Okay. So that is putting in the background on a textured paper. It would not look the same if it were on a smooth paper like this one. Let's try it on this one. So we'll put a little bit on here. This is a smoother sketch paper. So we'll put our color on and then we'll see if we can get the bokeh effect. Let's see together if we can make it work because these kneaded erasers should lift some of that out. It's lifting it up a little bit. Okay. Well, not as much as I would like. So this particular pastel is just so thin. I'm looking for a different kind of eraser that maybe will take it out. There, taking it out a little bit more on this sketch paper. So you're beginning to see the little bubbly things. You see the little bubbles for that sort of bokeh effect in the background. Okay, let's come back to this one. So I am going to finish this offline, meaning between now and next week. And so I will post it to my social media, to my Instagram account. You'll be able to see it finished. And let me make sure if you weren't here earlier that I put my information here as to this is my Instagram, which is Dietz Art, my Facebook, Tristina Dietz Art, but I'm only on Facebook when I'm posting things from Instagram to Facebook. Most of the time I'm not on Facebook looking at Facebook. And then you can always go to my website also, dietzart.com. I have articles up there. I will be writing an article that has a link to the finished video with all the product links and any like this photograph. I will link this photograph so that you can get this photograph if you like. That'll be up on my website in the next 2 days or so.